Hello, good morning, and welcome to Daybreak right here on Trust TV. It is a beautiful Thursday morning, and of course, we're here to make sure that your morning gets off to the best of starts. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
Indeed, a beautiful Thursday morning it is in the capital city, and I hope it's the same with us everywhere across the country. I am Sunday Michael Ogu.
All right, so this beautiful Thursday right here on Daybreak, let's start with the headlines this morning. Immigration rolls out enhanced e-passport in Kano.
And Boko Haram fraudulent plot to destroy Nigeria, Buhari.
No obligation to support World Cup bid in Ronaldo's contract, says Al Nasser.
Interesting headlines there. Now moving on to the details of the story. President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday described Boko Haram as a fraud and a plot to destabilize Nigeria. Buhari hosted members of the Catholic Bishop Conference of Nigeria at the State House in Abuja. The president told the delegation that the gains recorded in security will be further consolidated, promising that more attention will be given to the economy before May 29 handover date. Buhari said the security had improved over the years, particularly in the northeast, where the focus had shifted to rebuilding infrastructure. The president said during his visit to Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe State, the people confirmed the situation got better since 2015.
Meanwhile, the Nigeria Immigration Service has unveiled a central enhanced e-passport production center for Jigawa, Katsina, and Kano State. The spokesman of the NIS, Tony Ekuneme, who disclosed this in a statement in Abuja on Wednesday, said the service decided to site the center in Kano to bring improved passport processing services closer to the teeming numbers of passport applicants in Kano and its environs. According to the statement, the Controller General of Immigration Service, Isa Jere Idris, reassured Nigerians that the passport reform process was still in progress, especially the fast-track program designed specifically for those who returned from different parts of the globe for the Yuletide holiday. He stated that the NIS is still committed to issuing passports within the stipulated time frame of 3 to 6 weeks post-biometric capture, where there are no technical hitches or application irregularities, such as inconsistencies in the NIN of applicants.
Interesting. El Nasser said Cristiano Ronaldo's contract does not include any commitment to promote the 2030 World Cup bid. Reports suggested that Ronaldo's agreement included an additional bonus to act as an ambassador for Saudi Arabia's World Cup bid, with the Middle East aiming to host another tournament after Qatar 2022. The Portugal forward joined El Nasri on December 30 after his departure from Manchester United, signing a 2.5-year contract reportedly worth around 200 million euros per year.
All right, now it's time for us to take a look at some of the reports that we have this morning. The Central Bank of Nigeria has sensitized traders in MENA markets on the security features of the redesigned 200, 500 and 1,000 naira notes. The Apex Bank said the sensitization was also geared towards ensuring that citizens, especially traders, take the old notes to banks before the January 31st deadline. The report.
The MENA branch controller of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Ademola Saheed Mohammed, said the people at the grassroots and traders must be enlightened on the security features to avoid falling victims of counterfeit notes. He warned traders against coloring the old currencies, saying that anyone who indulges in the acts will face the law. The branch controller advised those residing in the rural areas where there are no commercial banks to open accounts with microfinance banks, a key into cashless policy of the central bank.
We need to bring it down, even though so many things have been done on television, on radio, jingles, and even on social media. But we need to come. The real people that uses the money most are the cash, are the market people.
While the CBN said new currencies are in circulation, traders, especially those who go to rural areas to buy goods, said there were no effective channels for e-transaction, and banks still issue them with old currencies 20 days to the deadline.
However, the challenges we face here is that our customers here, if they are buying, they give us the old notes instead of the new notes. And again, if you went to the bank so that they will exchange it for us, they will not exchange it. That is not that much for now. That is the challenges we are facing now.
Then put 31st of this month, some people will not happy because of people with their inside bush. Because when we go market, we buy, I pay them, Not be all of them have bank. Not be all of them have handset to operate all changing the money.
They called for extension of the deadline from January 31st to enable them ample opportunity to take their monies to banks. From Mina, Abubakar Akote, Trust TV News.
And now to matters of security, where police operatives in Katsina have busted a three-man syndicate of suspected kidnappers who came to collect ransom in Katsina. The suspected kidnappers were apprehended on Tuesday evening when they arrived at Katsina from Kano. Abdullahi Yamadi has the details.
The police also succeeded in rescuing the kidnapped victim Fatima Abubakar unhurt.
Su wane ne suka dauke ki?
Abdul.
To ya suka ga miki lokacin da za su dauke ki?
Haka suka ce wai umma suna Katsina wai za su kai ni Katsina.
The person who organized this kidnapping is almost a cousin. I can say a cousin to the victim. He organized this crime from Kano, Basharawa, where he lured this young girl. Her name is Fatima Abubakar, 6 years old.
The police public relations officer SP Gambo Isa said the victim Fatima Abubakar was kidnapped from Bacharawa quarters in Kano and taken to Katsina. The kidnappers demanded 2 million naira as ransom.
And in the course of investigation, we busted the syndicate. We've arrested all the 3 suspects that are here. Abdurazak Ibrahim alias Popular, 19 years, of Bacharawa quarters. Aliyu Salisu alias Shilo, age 19 years, of Sabuwar Ungwa quarters, Katsina. And Muhammad Ibrahim alias Zalamo, 19 years, of Gidandawa quarters, Katsina.
According to the police, the principal suspect Aliyu Salisu alias Chilo was caught at the point of receiving the 2 million naira ransom. The police command advised parents to be wary of the company their children keep to ensure that they don't get into the wrong group. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
Now to election matters. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has presented voters' registers to the 18 political parties ahead of the Presidential and National Assembly, as well as Governorship and State Assembly elections scheduled for February 25th and the 11th of March this year. Noel Sampson has more.
The Commission had last year suspended its continuous voters' registration exercise to focus attention on the forthcoming elections. Total registered voters now rose to 93,469,008. The Commission said female registered voters are 44,414,846, representing 47.5%, while male registered voters are 49,054,162, which is 52.5% of the voting population.
The distribution by age group shows that 37,060,339, or 39.65%, are youth between the ages of 18 and 34. 33,413,591, representing 35.75%, are middle-aged persons between the ages of 35 and 49. 17,700,270, representing 18.94%, are elderly voters between the ages of 50 and 69, while 5,294,748, representing 5.66%, are senior citizens aged 70 and above. In terms of occupational distribution, students constitute the largest category with 26,027,481 voters, representing 27.8% of the total.
INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakub seized the opportunity to dismiss reports of planned postponement or cancellation of the coming elections.
The repeated assurance by the security agencies for the adequate protection of personnel, materials, and processes also reinforces our determination to proceed. The 2023 general election will hold as scheduled.
Political parties reassured the Commission of the full support in order to have a free, fair, and credible elections.
We have to put the country forward. We don't put the country under intense pressure that this democracy, making that the world to look as if there's, the democracy will not succeed, or this election, there'll be problem. We are not seeing any problem. Yet people will attempt to frustrate it, but we should please see that we work together to see that we own this country.
The electoral umpire restates commitment to its critical stakeholders of conducting a free, fair, and credible election.
Nigerians are indeed looking forward to a very credible election comes February. And still staying with INEC ahead of the 2023 general election, the Independent National Electoral Commission in Gombe State has engaged stakeholders as part of effort to ensure the conduct of a free, fair, and credible elections in the state. Speaking to newsmen at the end of the stakeholders' engagement in Gombe, the state resident electoral commissioner said there is progress in the collection of permanent voters' cards in the state. Ibrahim Ismail brings us the report.
Barely 6 weeks away from the 2023 general elections, officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), heads of security agencies, representatives of political parties, as well as those of religious and traditional institutions have gathered in Gombe to brainstorm on ways of ensuring a smooth conduct of the election. At the meeting, the stakeholders deliberated on preparations, electoral processes, guidelines, and safety.
INEC is very much prepared, very much prepared. As I have said, out of 14 items in our timeline, INEC has already concluded 10, leaving just 4. So that's the next one is the publication of register of voters, which is expected to come tomorrow, and then notice of polls, which will be coming later, and then closing of campaigns, and then the election day. So all this, INEC is very much online.
In December last year, there were more than 230,000 uncollected PVCs in Gombe State, but INEC says about 90,000 of the cards have been collected as at January 2023, a development INEC says is commendable.
Of course, there is a lot of improvement. There's a lot of improvement.
Level of collection.
The level of collection is very impressive. Very impressive, I'm telling you now. Because as of today, I think what we have as collected PVCs, we have over 90,000 that have been collected, leaving a balance of about 140 something. And we still have about 10 days to go. So it is very encouraging.
Security operatives, political parties, and religious leaders have taken a stand against political thuggery and hate speech before, during, and after the polls.
They should play by the rules, ensure that people are educated enough, campaign maturely and in a civilized manner, eschew violence and thuggery. Warn their team members not to destroy or maim fellow contestants or citizens.
All the candidates, irrespective of their political parties and religious inclination, they are people of Gombe State, and all of them will continue to remain in Gombe State. So my advice is for them to be brothers and sisters to each other.
My major message for them is to please ensure that they don't instigate their people against others. Let them ensure that we have a peaceful election.
It is the belief of stakeholders in the electoral process that if they work together, a peaceful conduct of the 2023 general elections is guaranteed. From Gombe, Ibrahim Ismail reporting for Trust TV.
Moving on, Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of Zone 14 Katsina, Edward Ebuka, has asked politicians to desist from any acts that could jeopardize conduct of the 2023 general elections. The AIG gave the warning during an interactive section with candidates of political parties and the Independent National Electoral Commission's officials, security agencies, and other stakeholders in the state. Abdullahi Yamadi brings us the report.
AIG Edward threatened to deal with anyone found trying to destroy public properties during campaign rallies, saying security operatives will do all they could to defend the nation's democracy. The interactive session was primarily convened with the candidates of 18 political parties participating in the upcoming elections in Katsina State to brainstorm on the rules of the game.
The police will be fully engaged in the security of the states, in this instance Katsina, during or before, during and after the elections, the protection of polling officials, protection of electorate and materials, and then, of course, the political actors.
Katsina State Commissioner of Police Shehu Nadada charged the candidates to sensitize their followers on the electoral rules and guidelines before, during, and after elections. He urged parties and their candidates to preach the gospel of peace among their followers to attain a hitch-free elections.
On your electioneering campaigns, it is expected that you inform the police in writing of your campaign schedule so that security will be provided for you. And be advised appropriately. The notification will be provided for you. The notification by the candidate will be treated on first come, first served basis.
The INEC resident electoral commissioner in the state, Professor Yahaya Makarfi, charged politicians to adhere strictly to all provisions in the Electoral Act.
I will therefore use this opportunity to call on each and every one of us to do the best that we can to be guided by the provisions of the law. Nigerians and indeed Nigeria expects nothing less from us.
Earlier, the Assistant Inspector General of Police, Zone 14, has paid a familiarization visit to Katsina State Command to review strategies towards success of 2023 elections. The command complained of inadequate manpower, patrol vehicles, and other gadgets in all its area commands as well as 38 divisions. This is coming at a time security operatives are battling with banditry ravaging some parts of Katsina State. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
And that's it for the headlines and reports for this hour, right here on Daybreak. We'll take a short break right now, and when we return, we'll take a look at the front pages of the newspapers this morning. Do stay with us.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-9 373514 or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us on Daybreak right here on Trust TV. Now it's time for us to take a look at the front pages of newspapers to see what's making the rounds this morning. Well, we'll start with Daily Trust newspaper. And the major story on the front page is talking about the elections. It says elections will hold as scheduled, Buhari assures. And riders here that says no postponement, according to INEC. And youth top registered voters. Commission begins airlift of sensitive materials. Now, details of that story can be found on page 4. And the pictorial there on the front page was the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, and alongside other members of the commission at the presentation of the National Register of Voters to political parties in Abuja. US-Nigeria flights disrupted as American system glitch. That is on page 6. Ganduje Kano will repeat 1993 presidential election feat, and you can find that on page 15. NNPP urges security agencies to go after anti-democracy forces, and you can find details of that on page 14. Still looking at the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, policy uncertainty, inflation to slow Nigeria's economic growth, and this is according to the World Bank. And it says growth will decelerate to 2.9% in 2023, and projections reflect current realities. Now, that statement is credited to experts. Details can be found on page 7. Towards the top of the front page there, don't sell your votes. General Abdulsalami charges electorate. And that is on page 14. And talking security now, Kebbi abduction. Parents selling properties to pay 100 million naira ransom. That is quite unfortunate. And on page 5, Zazzau Emirate dismisses palace aid over gang rape. And those are the major stories on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
And moving on to the Nation newspaper this morning, we have there as the major headline, Northwest, Southwest, top 93.5 million likely voters. That is coming from the briefings from INEC yesterday, giving a breakdown of all the regions and what to expect. Lagos leads with 7 million. INEC releases voters list to parties. 49.5 million men, 44.4 million women, and 37 youth registered. Now, this 37 youth is not disaggregated. I know the women have always been more in our electoral breakdown, but this is interesting to have this breakdown this morning. Boko Haram, a plot to destroy Nigeria, says Buhari. And taking a quote there from the INEC release, he said, in the last 2 days, we commenced the airlifting of other sensitive materials to states across the country. Already, some of the materials for 17 states in 3 geopolitical zones have been delivered. That sounds very promising ahead of the February elections. And to other headlines there, APC PCC challenges Atiku on alleged corruption, health status. To other stories, Ekiti indebted to Tinubu, says Governor Oyebanji. You'll find that story in the inside page, on page 3. And Edo, 13 train passengers still with kidnappers. To other stories there, the bottom strip, bandit kill community leader, nephew adopts 4 housewives in Kaduna. These are the major stories on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
Now we'll take a look at the Punch newspaper this morning, and it goes, well, in keeping with what we have seen so far. INEC final list, Northwest, Southwest, top 93 million voter register, and Lagos has 7 million voters, Kano 5.9, Kaduna 4.3 million. And INEC rules out postponement, says no going back on poll timetable. And still talking about the Punch newspaper, President and the vigorous gadfly. That is a story you can find on page 20 of the Punch newspaper. At the very bottom of the front page there, marketers project 6 months fuel scarcity, and that is on page 17. Well, that doesn't make interesting reading. Jailing my husband's killer will caution drunk drivers. That is according to the widow of a slain baker. CCTV exposes Ogun Hotel murder suspects. Story can be found on page 4 and pages 4 and 5. At the very right next to the masthead there, Chime Nnamani, others shun Tinubu's Enugu rally. And you can find details on page 12. At the very top of the front page there, still talking politics. PDP seeks alliance with 11 parties. And UK shut Obi's company over account issues. And that is according to a report. Details can be found on page 21. INEC can be trusted for credible poll, says Showori, and that is a story that can be found on page 13 for the details now. These are the major stories making rounds on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning.
And moving on to News Direct this morning, still staying with issues around the elections. Insecurity, 2023 general elections will hold as scheduled. INEC defies fear. Says no adjustment to timetable, postponement of polls. We have been assured by security forces, Yakubu, as autumn appeals for extension in the collection of PVC. And to other stories there on the front page, have experienced both military, civilian rules, multi-party democracy in the best. I mean, multi-party democracy is the best. That is coming from President Buhari. Nigerians have no business seeking greener pastures overseas. That's coming from Tinubu. And strong regulatory systems necessary for quality medicine, vaccines in low-income countries. This is coming from Professor Mojisola Adeyeye. Pastor fakes own kidnapped, collects 600,000 ransom from members. Well, and this is taking interesting dimension. And to other stories above the name marks, we have Makurdi court jails 2 bankers 3 years for 9.4 million ATM card fraud. And Transcorp Group bags multiple award at the 2022 Pearl Awards. And to other stories, we will turn Ogbomoso zone to an industrial hub. And this is coming from Makinde. These are the major stories on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct.
All right, next we'll take a look at the Leadership newspaper and the major story. Still keeping with what we've seen so far. Lagos, Kano top as INEC releases final voters register as the 2023 elections. And it comes with riders here that says 93 million Nigerians to decide Atiku, Tinubu, Obi, others' fate. And Commission recants on election cancellation postponement. NMPP seeks court order on candidates list. That is another rider supporting the major story on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. Another story here reads, ICPC Ministry gets notification of fresh corruption allegations in NMPC. And that is on page 7. Another headline here talking about security matters now. Bandits kill Kaduna community leader. 1 other abducts 4 housewives. That is on page 22. Commodity prices to fall amid slow global growth, and that is a statement accredited to the World Bank. Details of that can be found on page 24. Now, these are the major stories that made their way to the front pages of the Leadership newspaper.
Moving on quickly to First News newspaper this morning, we have the major stories staying with the INEC releases, here it reads, no plans to postpone 2023 general election. Registers 93.4 million voters for February. An INEC chairperson voters registered to APC, PDP, LP, and other party leaders. And to the second major headlines here, we have 2023 APC PDP campaign spokesperson fight over Atiku Tinubu's health status. Atiku must come clean about his health condition, APC, and Atiku campaign organization fires back, says Tinubu unfit to hold office as president. Interesting banter there coming from the front runners in the forthcoming elections. And to other headlines there, we have Bayelsa governor inaugurates first electronic filing court in Nigeria. You'll find picture of Governor Diri and members of the judiciary. To other stories, 2023, only Nigerians who enjoy hardship will vote for APC, says Showori. I will make Southeast industrial manufacturing hub. Tinubu pledges to revitalize coal. And CBN bankrupt of ideas, says Shehu Sani. And to other stories, Tinubu administration will support grassroots sport development. And this is coming from veteran Super Eagle player Dan Omokachi. That's the major story on the front page of First News this morning.
All right, next we'll take a look at this Nigeria newspaper, and of course, in keeping what we have seen, 2023 polls sacrosanct, says Yakubu INEC chair. And then comes with riders here that says Commission announces 93.469 million eligible voters to participate in general elections. Now, details of that can be found on page 4. Still talking about the elections, it has a story here that says, Wiki, we are ready for a voting revolution. And that is on page 8. Now, talking about security matters, only 20 kidnapped in Edo train attack, not 32. And that is according to Commissioner. And that can be found on page 14. At the very bottom of the front page, you can find a story that reads, you can't continue to run CBN from overseas. Pressure mounts on Emefiele to resign. And you can find details of that on page 6. At the very top of the front page there, besides the masthead, Catholic bishops to Buhari use remaining 4 months to tackle insecurity economy. You can find details of that on page 8. Now, these are the major stories on the front page of this Nigerian newspaper.
And moving on to Blueprint newspaper this morning, and quickly we will look at those stories that are not that are different from what we have already taken from other papers this morning. Of course, the major story stays with the general election, and INEC does intention, says February and March 11 dates irreversible. But moving on to other stories quickly, train attack, Edo government makes U-turn, says only 20 kidnapped. Nigeria has no choice but to restructure debt burden. This according to experts. And again, hearing on Ararume's 100 billion suit over removal as NNPC chair stalled. Diri inaugurate first electronic filing court in Nigeria. And alcohol, smoking, radiation, major causes of cancer amongst women. This is also coming from experts. These are the major stories on the front page of Blueprint newspaper. At this point, we would now move on to the analysis of the major papers we have in the studios this morning. And as usual, joining us in the studio is the editor-in-chief, Deadline newspaper, Malan Nasri Lawal. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
Thank you. INEC seem to have taken over the front pages clearly. I think we are now in top gears as far as the February and March elections are concerned, with airlift of sensitive material already completed to 17 states. And most importantly, the reassurance, if you like, that the dates of the elections are sacrosanct. How significant do you think these statements are in the face of the doubts that came up some 24, 48 hours ago over the security situation in some parts of the country?
Well, it's like what the president said, trying to reassure Nigerians that elections will hold as scheduled. It's like a way of dousing the tension, generated by remarks actually attributed to the INEC chairman, saying that if the insecurity continues, then the elections may be jeopardized. So it's good that the president is now telling Nigerians and the whole world that actually there is no cause for alarm. And I think this is very good because so many people will now find it, possible to continue with their campaign, with all the issues, not necessarily waiting for like what will even happen to happen, because what the INEC chairman said, you can see even from the reactions. So many people, because we have been here before, in 2011, we had issues, with postponement. In 2015, there was something like that. So because of that, so many people may find it difficult to actually reconcile what the president said and what the INEC chairman is saying.
All right, well, still talking about INEC and the elections, apart from the assurances of the dates to carry out the election, and the election must hold, postponement and the rest of it, the other thing that took over the newspaper headlines is the voters register. Has been released. You have 93 million voters, or should I say eligible voters. And we're seeing from the breakdown that youth carry a very large chunk of those eligible voters that we're talking about. And it has always been said to build up to this election that youth are going to be the deciding factor, they're going to make a change, the difference is going to come from them, and so on and so forth. But it's one thing to register. It's another thing for you to go out and vote. And a lot of people, we have seen in previous elections, where when you go to polling stations, the people that you see voting there are not youth. The youth are there playing football and waiting for the polls to close to continue their businesses. Do we have any sort of assurance that things will be different this time around?
Well, we have always said it that the youths, if you look at the numbers, they're actually the deciders, of whoever is going to become the president. But unfortunately, they hardly take advantage of the numbers that they have. On the day of election, you see youths, just moving about, sitting in groups, waiting for the election results to be announced. Some of them actually have no voters registered, because if all the youths, all the eligible youths are to have their voters card, I think the number will certainly be much higher than what you have at the moment. And another thing I find interesting, with the figures released by the electoral body, is the fact that, for the first time, or is it for the first time, that women are now second. They are not the first, And if you look at the numbers also, only 8 states, have women, leading in terms of the numbers. In fact, in the entire 19 northern states, only Kogi State has a little over 50%. So maybe with more enlightenment, especially in this part of the country, there are so many women that are not being, taken along in the course of all this. And women have a very important role to play in all this, because anytime we talk about poverty, for instance, women are the most affected. And we can't be talking about trying to end poverty without carrying the women along, without ending poverty among the women folk. So I think this is an opportunity, for especially those that call the shots in the northern part of the country, to be able to mobilize more women so that they would be participating in this all-important exercise. But the youths, if they take advantage of their number, honestly, they should be able to decide who becomes the next president. And they are like the major stakeholders, because even if you look at the life expectancy and what have you, the youths are likely to be here, for some time, because we have just a little over 5 million voters that are above 70 and the like. So if they don't take advantage of this opportunity, whatever happens, the implication, they will be the ones to bear all the brunt, because like I said, they are like the ones that are going to be here for quite some time, looking at all the numbers.
Interesting breakdown there, coming in the light of the fact that in our population numbers, I think we have over 60 million youths, and you have less than 35 or about 37 million here registered. So you wonder what would have happened to the nearly 20 other millions. And talking about women, I was just thinking in my head, could it be that they are already becoming fatigued, you know, because whenever there are election violence, they are the biggest culprits. So when we militarize these elections, they are the ones who are not encouraged to come out because they are usually very peace-loving people. I hope we could do something to change it, starting with INEC, because if you look at the numbers of the commissioners there on the pictures, you can just spot one of them. Maybe if we have more women representation, they will find the need to
mobilize women
to mobilize women more. But moving away to the World Bank release yesterday, initially they had told us that half of the world will be in recession come 2023. Now they are breaking it down to regions and, of course, to countries. And they are telling us that policy uncertainty, inflations to slow Nigeria's growth. The uncertainty, I'm sure, will be coming from the fact that we'll be changing leadership, and you are not exactly sure what will be retained, what would have to go, how the new leader carries the opposition, because some of the arguments by the experts, just to provide context for your comment, is the fact that whichever candidate wins must understand that the other candidates have very large following. So a buy-in from the followership would be useful to galvanize the country in the paths that they want. But what do you make of these pronouncements?
Well, I think it is to be expected because in the presidential election, you know, the president is actually serving out his term. So whatever happens, we are going to have a new president because the incumbent is not going to be on the ballot. And so the uncertainty is to be expected because even among investors, you know, students, because we don't know exactly the policy direction that the incoming government will want to pursue. So because of that, I think it's good that the World Bank is bringing this to the fore, so that even if we are like missing it, you know, we now have a chance to go back and pay attention to it, the attention that it actually deserves. Because inflation, you know, keeps rising, and then nobody knows how far it will go. If you look at what is happening in countries like Ghana, if it can happen in Ghana, it can certainly happen in Nigeria. Definitely. Because sometimes we have allowed, the market forces without any sort of intervention from the relevant bodies. So I think, like I said earlier, it's good for all the relevant stakeholders to key into this. So that probably if we have had, you know, campaign based on issues, on manifestos, we will have known, you know, the direction that the incoming or the people jostling to become president, you know, will pursue in 2023. But sadly, all the issues that they are paying attention to, you know, are things that I'm not saying they are not important, but maybe not at this time. You can see we are still talking about, you know,
health
issues, you know, corruption and what have you. We're not saying they are not important. They are important, but that's not what Nigerians actually want to hear. What we want to hear is what you intend to do. For instance, right now, we're in the middle of currency redesign, a major policy issue. You know, is it something that you are likely to continue, or is it something that you may come up with something that is quite different from what obtains at the moment? So things like that will have given us opportunity to decide on so many issues, probably even on the candidates that we should be voting for. But right now, all the things that we keep hearing, you know, are stuff that, you know, just fit into the social media debates and what have you.
All right, let's move slightly away from politics and the elections. We may circle back to it, but for now, let's just move away slightly away from it and talk about security. The Daily Times is reporting here that security surveillance along Abuja-Kaduna Railway will gulp 30 1.79 billion naira. That's according to the federal government. And, well, most recently, the train station attack in Edo State, whereby we have been having some difficulty reconciling the numbers. We said 32 were abducted. Now some people are saying it was 20, and some people have been rescued while some are still there. I say rescued because it poses the question: are these people not in the same place? Were they not abducted by the same people? So how come some people are rescued and others are still there? Can you try to make a little sense out of all this?
Well, the incident in Edo is quite different from what we experienced, on the Kaduna-Abuja route. Because the Kaduna-Abuja, in the case of the Abuja-Kaduna route, a train was actually stopped on its tracks. And, passengers abducted. But in this case, they went to the train station. Probably some of the people that they even abducted are not even passengers. Possibly they just escorted,
so the relatives.
Their relatives or friends, to board the train, and then they are affected. But like you said, sometimes you find it difficult to reconcile what the security agents are actually saying, because if you are able to rescue maybe a number out of those that were abducted, at least you should be able to tell us what happened to the others. Is it like, the gunmen succeeded in, dragging them through? What happened to the gunmen? How were you able to rescue this without, being able to do the same for all the others? And, sometimes what actually happens, maybe the gunmen themselves may find you unsuitable maybe for the long trek and what have you, and they may decide to abandon you. And in the end, what do the security agents tell Nigerians? You have been rescued. When in actual sense, you were able to escape on your own without any intervention. But I thought what happened on the Kaduna-Abuja route, would have served as a lesson to not only the passengers, but even the relevant security organizations, because the fact that it happened in Kaduna, you should know that, it can happen anywhere. See what happened in the case of the Chibok school attack. It happened in Borno State. Now it's happening all over the place. So you should have used that, to plan against all these criminal elements, because anytime they see some of them succeed in somewhere, it would be like a template for them to continue. So I think it will be good anytime something like this happens for the authorities, to be able to tell us exactly what happened. It's not good to say 30 people were kidnapped and then before you know it, you have reviewed the number to say only 31, because maybe it has to do with even our manifest. We don't even know
how
those
many
that
people
are
actually
to board the train, and then maybe our incident reporting processes are even faulty, because is there any opportunity for those whose loved ones were affected, to even report it?
That's right.
So that you can follow up on it to see exactly the number of people missing or unaccounted for.
You basically just hit the nail on the head. I was saying to Usaina the last time that there's a saying in the local parlance, you hear the worry people say, these people don't treat us. Because when you listen to the reporting, like you rightly said, the incident reporting process, it's just completely faulty. To think that it took us almost 8 months to kickstart the Kaduna, you would think lessons have been learned. Now, there are no even CCTV camera reviews to suggest even the nature and the pattern of the operation. This happened around 4 a.m. in a rainforest, in a community where it's not as wide open as the north. You barely would travel for 5-10 minutes before you run into Igwebe. Is a place I'm very familiar with. It's basically 5-10 minute drive from Iromi, another 5-10 minute drive. So all the communities are, how would these people have traveled for this long? And you keep coming to the media to give us the impression that you are in a hot chase, you have mobilized all kinds of people, jungle, whatever. And the people you pick up are people who basically escaped from the, and you come up to take glory. So I hope there are some kind of committees that would take a second look at what these people are saying and do something holistic. In other countries, we have dedicated police people, as we have for the airlines. You have their own people who understands the nature of crime that can take place on those corridors and basically work to forestall it, rather than have conventional police who have no knowledge of or training of how these things are done to police this corridor. But still staying with security is the issue, as reported by Daily Trust, of Kebbi adoptions, parents selling properties to pay 100 million ransom. We know the implication of this. We ran a report last week, Ibrahim, of how the recovered victims of the Kaduna train attack are practically wallowing in poverty. They sold everything to pay for ransom. Some lost their job for the long stay in the adoption. We are seeing a repeat with the Kebbi parents, selling virtually everything to raise 100 million ransom. What can be done, to salvage the plight of these people?
Well, I don't think the government, has done what we have expected, of it, because the Awori incident didn't happen last week or yesterday. It happened for quite a number of months now, and we are still talking about people in captivity. We are not hearing anything from the security agents, from the government, about the efforts being made, to ensure that they are freed, they are released, to their loved ones. But we are talking about the fact that even their parents are still looking for what to do, making contacts, trying to get money, to be able to do this. And one thing that keeps, bugging my mind is how are we, or how do these criminals, succeed in taking delivery of all this, cash? And then somehow this same money will find its way back to the society, and then we cannot trace this. Honestly, this is quite unfortunate. I'm not saying that the security agents are not trying, but honestly, no matter how hard you are trying, I need to see some results, for me to be able to appreciate. And it's also quite unfortunate that all the parents that are affected, have been left on their own to
absolutely
to carry, to bear their burden, which the state shouldn't do, especially at a time like this. So many people are being pushed, into poverty, because if you look at the economy, in the rural areas, it shows that maybe we are not even capturing it the way we are supposed to do, because it shows that somehow, we have a functional economy in that, lower rung of the society, because people being able to even meet all these demands for ransom and what have you. But right now they have reached, a tipping point.
Breaking point.
They are no longer able to do all this. And then all the criminals are still, moving about freely. After some lull in their attacks, we are now back at it. Probably that even explains why INEC came up with the statement that discussing all the controversy, because gradually, we are going back to a very difficult time, especially for people in the rural areas.
Interesting insights there from analyst Malan Nasrallah, but rather than sign him off, I've just got words from my producers that we will be keeping him. That is taking him by surprise himself. He will be part of a larger conversation, I can assure you, so we will not be saying goodbyes. We will take a short breather and return at the top of the hour with more from today's program. Please stay with us.
That's great. It's good to see you.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Daybreak on Trust Television. I am Sunday Michael Ogun.
All right, welcome back and thanks for staying with us. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Welcome to Daybreak.
And moving on to the news headline on the Boko Haram fraudulent plot to destroy Nigeria, Buhari.
And immigration rolls out enhanced e-passport in Kano.
No obligation to support World Cup bid in Ronaldo's contract, El Nasser.
All right, now let's look at the details. President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday described Boko Haram as a fraud and a plot to destabilize Nigeria. Buhari hosted members of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Nigeria at the State House, Abuja. The president told the delegation that the gains recorded in security will further be consolidated, promising that more attention will be given to the economy before the May 29th handover date. Buhari said the security had improved over the years, particularly in the northeast, where the focus had shifted to rebuilding infrastructure. The president said during his visit to Borno, Adamawa and Yobe states, the people confirmed the situation got better since 2015.
Moving on, the Nigerian Immigration Service has unveiled the Central Enhanced E-Passport Production Center for Jigawa, Katsina, and Kano. The spokesman of the NIS, Tony Akuneme, who disclosed this in a statement in Abuja on Wednesday, said the service decided to site the center in Kano to bring improved passport processing service closer to the teeming numbers of passport applicants in Kano and its environs. According to the statement, the Controller General of Immigration Service, Issa Jere Idris, reassured Nigerians that the passport reform process was still in progress, especially the fast-track program designed specifically for those who return from different parts of the globe for the Yuletide holiday. He stated that the NIS is still committed to issuing passports within the stipulated time frame of 3 to 6 weeks post-biometric capture, where there are no technical hitches or application irregularities as inconsistencies in the NIM of applicants.
Now looking at sports, Cristiano Ronaldo's Al Nassr contract does not include any commitment to promote a 2030 World Cup bid, the Saudi Arabian club has stated. Reports suggested Ronaldo's agreement included an additional bonus to act as an ambassador for Saudi Arabia's World Cup bid, with the Middle East aiming to host another tournament after Qatar 2022. Al Nassr strongly denied claims Ronaldo had been offered a financial incentive to secure FIFA's top tournament, with Spain, Ukraine and his home country Portugal among the others to make a joint bid to host. The Portugal forward joined Al Nassr on December 30th after his departure from Manchester United, signing a 2.5-year contract reportedly worth around €200 million per year.
And that's it on our news highlight. Moving on to our packages. The Central Bank of Nigeria has sensitized traders in mini market on the security features of the redesigned 200, 500 and 1,000 naira notes. The Apex Bank said the sensitization was also geared towards ensuring that citizens, especially traders, take the old notes to the bank before the January 31st deadline. The report.
The Minna branch controller of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Ademola Sahid Mohammed, said the people at the grassroots and traders must be enlightened on the security features to avoid falling victims of counterfeit notes. He warned traders against coloring the old currencies, saying that anyone who indulges in the acts will face the law. The branch controller advised those residing in the rural areas where there are no commercial banks to open accounts with microfinance banks, a key into cashless policy of the Central Bank.
We need to bring it down. Even though so many things have been done on television, on radio, jingles, and even on social media. But we need to come. The real people that uses the money most are the cash, are the market people.
While the CBN said new currencies are in circulation, traders, especially those who go to rural areas to buy goods, say there were no effective channels for each transaction, and banks still issue them with old currencies 20 days to the deadline.
However, the challenges we face here is that our customers here, if they are buying, they give us the old notes instead of the new notes. And again, if we went to the bank so that they will exchange it for us, they will not exchange it. That is not that much for now. That's the challenges we are facing now.
Then put 31st of this month, some people will not happy because of people where they are inside bush. Because when we go market, buy and pay them, not be all of them have bank, not be all of them have handset to operate for changing the money.
They called for extension of the deadline from January 31st to enable them ample opportunity to take their monies to banks. From Mina, Abubakar Akote, Trust TV News.
Now talking about security, police operatives in Katsina have busted a 3-man syndicate of suspected kidnappers who came to collect ransom in Katsina. The suspected kidnappers were apprehended on Tuesday evening when they arrived in Katsina from Kano. Abdullahi Yamadi tells us more.
The police also succeeded in rescuing the kidnapped victim Fatima Abubakar unhurt.
Abdul.
To ya suka ga maka lokacin da za su dauke ki?
Aka suka ce wai mama suna Katsina wai za su kai ni Katsina.
The person who organized this kidnapping is almost a cousin. I can say a cousin to the victim. He organized this crime from Kano, Basharawa, where he lured this young girl. Her name is Fatima Abubakar, 6 years old.
The police public relations officer SP Gambo Isa said the victim Fatima Abubakar was kidnapped from Bacharawa quarters in Kano and taken to Katsina. The kidnappers demanded 2 million naira as ransom.
And in the course of investigation, we busted the syndicate. We've arrested all the 3 suspects that are here. Abdurazak Ibrahim alias Popular, 19 years of Bacharawa Quarters. Aliyu Salisu alias Shilo, age 19 years of Sabuwar Ungwa Quarters Kazina. And Mohammed Ibrahim alias Zalamu, 19 years of Gidandawa Quarters Kazina.
According to the police, the principal suspect Aliyu Salisu alias Chilo was caught at the point of receiving the 2 million naira ransom. The police command advised parents to be wary of the company their children keep to ensure that they don't get into the wrong group. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
And moving on to the Independent National Electoral Commission has presented voters' register to the 18 political parties ahead of the Presidential and National Assembly, as well as governorship and state assembly elections scheduled for February 25th and the 11th of March this year. Noel Sampson has more.
The Commission had last year suspended its continuous voters' registration exercise to focus attention on the forthcoming elections. Total registered voters now rose to 93,469,008. The Commission said female registered voters are 44,414,846, representing 47.5%, while male registered voters are 49,054,162, which is 52.5% of the voting population.
The distribution by age group shows that 37,060,339, or 39.65%, are youth between the ages of 18 and 34. 33,413,591, representing 35.75%, are middle-aged persons between the ages of 35 and 49. 17,700,270, representing 18.94%, are elderly voters between the ages of 50 and 69, while 5,294,748, representing 5.66%, are senior citizens aged 70 and above. In terms of occupational distribution, students constitute the largest category with 26,027,481 voters, representing 27.8% of the total.
INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakub seized the opportunity to dismiss reports of planned postponement or cancellation of the coming elections.
The repeated assurance by the security agencies for the adequate protection of personnel, materials, and processes also reinforces our determination to proceed. The 2023 general election will hold as scheduled.
Political parties reassure the Commission of the full support in order to have a free, fair, and credible elections.
We have to put the country forward. We don't put the country under intense pressure that this democracy, making that the world to look as if there's, the democracy will not succeed, or this election there will be problem. We are not seeing any problem. Yet people will attempt to frustrate it, but we should please see that we work together to see that we own this country.
The electoral umpire restates commitment to its critical stakeholders of conducting a free, fair, and credible election.
Now, still talking the 2023 elections, the Independent National Electoral Commission in Gombe State has engaged stakeholders as part of efforts to ensure the conduct of a free, fair, and credible election in the state. Now, speaking to newsmen at the end of the stakeholders' engagement in Gombe, the state resident electoral commissioner said there is progress in the collection of permanent voter cards in the state. Ibrahim Ismail reports.
Barely 6 weeks away from the 2023 general elections, officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), heads of security agencies, representatives of political parties, as well as those of religious and traditional institutions, have gathered in Gombe to brainstorm on ways of ensuring a smooth conduct of the election. At the meeting, the stakeholders deliberated on preparations, electoral processes, guidelines, and safety.
INEC is very much prepared, very much prepared. As I have said, out of 14 items in our timeline, INEC has already concluded 10, leaving just 4. So that's the next one is the publication of register of voters, which is expected to come tomorrow, and then notice of polls, which will be coming later, and then closing of campaigns, and then the election day. So all this, INEC is very much online.
In December last year, there were more than 230,000 uncollected PVCs in Gombe State, but INEC says about 90,000 of the cards have been collected as at January 2023, a development INEC says is commendable.
Of course, there is a lot of improvement. There's a lot of improvement.
Level of collection.
The level of collection is very impressive. Very impressive, I'm telling you now. Because as of today, I think what we have as collected PVCs, we have over 90,000 that have been collected, leaving a balance of about 140 something. And we still have about 10 days to go. So it is very encouraging.
Security operatives, political parties, and religious leaders have taken a stand against political thuggery and hate speech before, during, and after the polls.
They should play by the rules, ensure that people are educated enough, campaign maturely and in a civilized manner, eschew violence and thuggery. Warn their team members not to destroy or maim fellow contestants or citizens.
All the candidates, irrespective of their political parties and religious inclination, they are people of Gombe State, and all of them will continue to remain in Gombe State. So my advice is for them to be brothers and sisters to each other.
My major message for them is to please ensure that they don't instigate their people against others. Let them ensure that we have a peaceful election.
It is the belief of stakeholders in the electoral process that if they work together, a peaceful conduct of the 2023 general elections is guaranteed. From Gombe, Ibrahim Ismail reporting for Trust TV.
And moving on, the Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of Zone 14, Katsina, Edward Ebuka, has asked politicians to desist from any acts that could jeopardize conduct of the 2023 general elections. The AIG gave the warning during an interactive session with candidates of political parties, INEC, officials, security agencies, and other stakeholders in the state. Abdullahi Yamadi brings us the report.
AIG Edward threatened to deal with anyone found trying to destroy public properties during campaign rallies, saying security operatives will do all they could to defend the nation's democracy. The interactive session was primarily convened with the candidates of 18 political parties participating in the upcoming elections in Katsina State to brainstorm on the rules of the game.
The police will be fully engaged in the security of the states, in this instance Katsina, during or before, during and after the elections, the protection of polling officials, protection of electorate and materials, and of course the political actors.
Katsina State Commissioner of Police Shehu Nadada charged the candidates to sensitize their followers on the electoral rules and guidelines before, during, and after elections. He urged parties and their candidates to preach the gospel of peace among their followers to attain a hitch-free elections.
On your electioneering campaigns, it is expected that you inform the police in writing of your campaign schedule so that security will be provided for you. And they advise appropriately. The notification will be provided for you. The note whereby the candidate will be treated on first come, first served basis.
The INEC resident electoral commissioner in the state, Professor Yahya Makarfi, charged politicians to adhere strictly to all provisions in the Electoral Act.
I will therefore use this opportunity to call on each and every one of us to do the best that we can to be guided by the provisions of the law. Nigerians and indeed Nigeria expects nothing less from us.
Earlier, the Assistant Inspector General of Police, Zone 14, has paid a familiarization visit to Katsina State Command to review strategies towards success of 2023 elections. The command complained of inadequate manpower, patrol vehicles, and other gadgets in all its area commands as well as 38 divisions. This is coming at a time security operatives are battling with banditry ravaging some parts of Katsina State. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
All right, that's it for the headlines and reports for this hour on Daybreak. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll take a look at some of the issues making the rounds. Stay with us.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Or really, if you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement. terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us on Daybreak right here on Trust TV. Well, now time for us to take a look at the major issue for our discussion this morning. President Muhammadu Buhari has said he has fulfilled his commitment he made to Nigerians in his May 29, 2015 inaugural address to frontally and courageously tackle Boko Haram terrorists and stabilize the country. Now, the president stated this while speaking at a state banquet organized in his honor in Damaturu, the Yobe state capital, on Monday night by Governor Mai Malabuni. Buhari, who noted that the most critical security challenge inherited by the administration nearly 8 years ago was the potent and pervasive threat of terrorism, expressed delight that normalcy had returned to affected states in the northeast. Now, we have in the studio to talk about this particular issue Dr. Yahuza Ahmed Gezo, and he's a security consultant, and he's visited some of the areas affected by Boko Haram and insurgency. He joins us right here in the studio. Welcome to Daybreak.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, viewers.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, we have our co-anchor, like I say, Nasrullah, who has remained with us in the studio to actually shed more light on this issue. Welcome once again.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think, Sunday, would you like to take this
Welcome, Dr. Gezo. You, as the introduction rightly captures, you visited a number of these places. And every time we get the president undertake this visit or even visit or participate in international engagements, he keeps saying that the situation has improved, the situation is better, he has delivered on his mandate as far as security, the security situation is concerned. From what you have seen, can you reconcile the president's statements with the reality on ground?
Well, I think President Muhammadu Buhari should stop deceiving Nigerians by making such statements. Simply because, can he tell me that Monguno is free? Can Buhari justify that Michika is free? Can Buhari justify that Maiha is free? Can Buhari justify that Gombe is free? Can Buhari certify that Mubi is free? Can Buhari certify that Buniadi from Damaturu through Bunigari, through Buratai, through Miriga to Biu is free? Can Buhari justify that your route between Damaturu and Pataskum is free to pass all the time? Can Buhari justify that between Pataskum to Dachia, to Kazir, to Jakusko, to other places down to Gashua is free? Can Buhari tell me that all areas in Gombe has now been freed? What about the couple? Of course, we can accept and agree that there are some level of improvement in terms of reduction in bombing, in terms of reduction in bombing in the mosque and the churches, in terms of maybe capital offensive against markets and other public places. But for President Muhammadu Buhari to tell Nigerians that he has fulfilled his promise as far as Boko Haram is concerned, that is just a storytelling. And of course, he made mention, I have listened carefully and I have examined all the statements he have made. And going by all he have said, that he made reference that he is 80 years of age. He had enjoyed all its requests for Nigeria, and Nigeria made him to be what he is. But I want him to remember, has he fly the roads between Damaturu, between Gombe, Yobe, Adamawa, Borno, and all other states of the northeastern part of the country? What will have justified that, yes, he has succeeded in attaining and delivering the mandate as promised? As he shed tears some days when he said that Nigerians have been cheated, is the fact that we will have seen Muhammadu Buhari flying the roads as he flied them in 2013, 2011, 2014, and even part of the 2015.
Okay,
but we have seen Muhammadu Buhari flying by air, using the helicopters, while the ordinary people are still being killed, assassinated, and many, he made mention that inhabitants of the northeastern part of the country have been denied access to education, access to commercial activities, access to academic activities, access to social activities. But yet, those social activities, they have been denied. How many schools have been rebuilt? I want to tell President Muhammadu Buhari that in the last 6 months, I have visited all the affected local governments in those areas, even though during the hitch, the time when the crisis was at its peaks, I also visited those areas. Okay, so it doesn't mean that because of his effort, I was able to visit the area. Okay, I visited the area even during when the security challenges was at peak.
Okay, Doctor, thank you very much for those opening statements. Just so that we are able to exhaust all the vital areas, I would like Malam Nasir to contextualize some of these conversations for us. You were also an editor of a very important paper over the period when these issues were at its peak, and you were at the forefront of documenting some of this incident. Would it be right to say that we have not made any progress over the years, or that the progress are not tangible as we would expect? What's your perspective of the kind of progress you think we have made over the years?
Well, if you listen to what the president was actually trying to say, actually, even when he came on board, he tried to walk back on some of the promises, that were made during the campaign. So if the president is now coming out to say that I have fulfilled all the promises that I have made, probably what he's trying to tell you is that some of the things that you must have had are probably not things that he believed, to be maybe part of the things that he promised Nigerians. It's certainly going to be unfair, to say that we have not made any progress since the president came on board. If you know the Northeast very well, you will know that even the number of trips that you now have in that part of Nigeria, they have greatly improved. Places that you couldn't visit in a while, you are now able to visit them, and that are some of the things that we should be looking at, to be able to understand or contextualize what the president was actually trying to say. But to say that you have fulfilled, then probably we may not have need for the kind of security deployment that we have in that region and the likes. So for the president to come out to say that boldly, you know, I think it's a bit of an exaggeration.
Could
you
it
know?
be that the president doesn't have the correct picture of the situation on ground, because he does rely on reports being given to him by people on ground? Maybe could that be the case?
Well, you know, as the president, you have like access to so many information, and of course, you know, those on the ground may not want you to know certain things, especially the ones that will put them in bad light. But as the president, you should also be able, you know, to find a way of getting your own information, because you are the president. You have the contacts, you can reach the governor, you can reach other stakeholders in the state and be able to get information which you can use, you know, side by side with what all the security agents are now telling you, so that you'll be able to take, you know, the necessary decision based on the information that you have.
Doctor, coming back to you, if from your visit it does appear that the situation is still as volatile as it used to be, can you help us situate where do you think the problem is? Is it underreported or deliberate misreporting? Because, I mean, at other times when media houses attempt to even give publicity to the government officials come up and say we are glorifying the terrorists. We are at a fix at what kind of publicity to even give the incident, because it does appear that publicity in a way sort of fuels a sense of achievement on the part of these terrorists and gives them the impression that yes, we are getting the kind of attention on the one hand, and on the other hand, ignoring this report is now beginning to create a sense of achievement on the part of the government to then suggest that things were not as bad as they used to be. Where do you think the missing link is for us, both as civil society people, journalists, or even those in government?
Well, one thing we have to clearly state is that, yes, of course, government and the security agencies deserve some level of commendations. We cannot condemn in totality and say that there is no progress recorded. But the progress recorded is meaningless to the fact that we have the courage, the confidence, based on the trust and the confidence of the public entrusted on the leadership of President Muhammad Buhari. I'm sending a message if President Muhammad Buhari is listening to me, and I'm sending the message to his ears. What I mean by his ears is those who are reporting to him to please follow up with him and tell him that he should open his Airtel line that was on use up to the time he was 8 months old in the presidential villa. And that was the Airtel line that he has been using during the campaign period of the 2007, 2011, and even the 2015 when he succeeded in becoming the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I'm sure those are the grassroots that have been feeding him with information, have been providing him information right from Goza, Dikwa, Oba, Chibok, Buniadi, Biu, Haul, Shafa, Yimiskira, and other places, the southern Borno, and southern Adamawa and northern Borno, all those areas and all the locations of Monguno and others where Boko Haram have been terrorizing Dambua and other LGS, and including even the Jere that is not up to, which is just a step out of Borno, Jere RGA. I'm very sure Muhammad Buhari could have had a privilege even of receiving SMS, because I know and he know that I'm part of the documenting team that have been recording and documenting those informations that we have been receiving from the grassroots.
Okay.
So if at all he can have this, I cannot say that the security have not been providing him with relevant information, or he has not had a privileged way of getting those informations. I know his relationship with radio. I know his relationship with the television. Over the years, over 20 years or even more than that. So somebody who knows who is President Muhammad Buhari very well, I don't need anybody to tell me who is President Muhammad Buhari, and he don't need anybody to tell him who is Dr. Yahuza Gezo. as far as information and documentation is concerned. So I believe even if those unscrupulous elements among the security agencies have been denying him right to correct informations, there is no local government in the northeastern part of the country that President Muhammad Buhari, on his that Airtel, which I can call it now, on that Airtel, if he can open it, there is no local government in northeastern part of the country, especially the front security challenged LGS, that President Muhammad Buhari doesn't have or don't have a contact of at least 5 people.
Okay,
so if at all the shout we have been making, the examinations I have been making myself through the national and international media over time have not reached to the ears of the President Muhammad Buhari, or either directly or indirectly, the intimidations I have suffered from some of the agencies of the government because of the boldness and ability to speak on behalf of the voiceless through the period of 8 years that he has spent as a president of Nigeria. I cannot say that he have not had the privilege to have listened to those, and I know some of these informations I even shared it through the WhatsApp and through other medium. And I'm sending also a message. Let him visit Google and Google Dr. Yahuza Geso. I'm sure I have been saying it, and I have been sending the link. I'm sure he must have received information from me and from many other researchers and investigators and experts and other consultants. We have been risking ourselves, or I have been risking myself, to visit all the security front locations in all parts of the country, especially the northeastern part of the country.
Doctor,
so the schools and other things have not been really placed or reverted or rebuilt. So if we are really at peace and Boko Haram is no more, then the question of President Muhammad Buhari making those assertions, deceitful statement from an old man of 80 years of age, I felt ashamed.
So, Doctor, this is what I wanted us to say, and I would need you to quickly respond to this so that I can also get Malan Nasri's perspective. We understand from your account that the situation is not exactly the way the president is painting it. Yeah. So my question is, we need to move to a point where things are taken over by systems. Today we have a President Buhari whose number you have. Tomorrow we will have a president whose number the communities do not have. We have to find a way to elevate these things to a level where the system, as we have it, can respond without necessarily having the president beckon on it. So my question was really, what did you find as the missing link? Because he is the president. He is the president of 774 local government. It is impossible to go through complaints from all of these handsets, bearing all other things that he needs to attend. Where do you think the missing link is? Is it that we all are not reporting enough? Or that there is a system that sort of prevents the president from getting the correct information? I would like you to make your response in 30 seconds so that we can also get perspective.
I have to commend the media, especially the Trust, Daily Trust and Trust TV and other media houses. You have been doing very well, and you have been fair enough in terms of making extraordinary sacrifice in generating those informations. None of the presidential contenders, as I'm speaking to you today, none of them, ranging from Konkoso, Tinubu, Atiku and others, that do not have a representative at their fingertips as I'm talking to you, like President Muhammad Buhari also had some times back. So even if you cannot have by political word, you can have by a local government. And out of every 5, you can have one that can tell you the blunt truth. The missing link is the fact that probably the security agencies that have been the 27 security agencies that we have in the country have not been doing enough in terms of hitting the nail on the head, so that President Muhammad Buhari can feel can have the feeling of the situation for what really needed to be done. I commend the AIG Katsina and the Commissioner of Police Katsina for their efforts over time, and even the Commissioner of Police of the FCT, they have been trying as much as possible to speak the truth, which is the inadequacy of the personnel, lack of the manpower. And those who are the hem of the affairs have been grossly enriched to the fact that we have passed allegations and assertions that government and the witch-hunting agencies of government, the ICPC and EFCC, should follow up with those who are posted to those areas and reaffirm why have they not been providing the right and correct information. So I believe, honestly and sincerely, that the missing link is having the unscrupulous element, internal sabotage, and surround sabotage within, and inability of Muhammadu Buhari to act, despite the fact that the public have been complaining about the issues around him. The media have done very well, and we commend you for what you have been doing. And I believe that the information units and the intelligence have been poorly managing the security in the country, as even ascertained by him, the President Muhammad Buhari, many times. To quote one of the time was when he visited the prison, the Kuje prison, after the jailbreak. I believe if Muhammad Buhari could have acted by dismissing the Minister of Defense, by dismissing the Minister of Interior, by dismissing the DG prison, especially by the statement he made that the prison, those prisons have not been provided for the keeping of the terrorists, but he has been holding and managing the terrorists for more than 2 years, and President Muhammad Buhari responded to them that he is not happy with the performance of the intelligence, if I quoted very well. I know he made something like that.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for those insights. Now, Noah Nasser, let me come to you now. I was going to ask you the media question actually, but it has asked one now. But there's one point that the doctor has actually made. A lot of people have had this idea that the insurgency, terrorism, banditry, all these security challenges that we're actually facing has been allowed to fester because of a perceived inability to be decisive when it comes to taking action. And a lot of people believe that those in charge of these security agencies have a certain degree of, display a certain degree of laxity because there's actually no accountability. Something might happen on your watch and nobody gets punished. Do you think that is the case? Why this situation has festered for as long as it has?
Well, even if it may not, even if it may not be among the reasons, it's certainly not good. You know, even for the image of the force, for you to be found wanting in your responsibility, and then for you to be maintained. If you remember, we had the former service chiefs that were there before the current ones that we have. They have sort of overstayed. Actually, so many generals had to go, you know, because of
they were overstaying.
They are overstaying. So if you look at that, you will understand probably the mind of the president is not like given to changing, you know, the head of the security agencies all the time. Probably there is something he has seen in them which we may not at our own level be able to see, which is maybe the reason why he is keeping some of them. But if you talk about the punishment aspect of it, I wouldn't say those found wanting are not being punished, even though the number may not be up to what so many of us will expect, you know, because the EFCC, the ICPC, right now, they have so many cases that are pending, you know, that are actually ongoing, you know, involving some of these security, heads of security agencies and what have you. So the media on its part, actually, if you look at that, and if you know the Nigerian media very well, you know, it will be unfair, you know, to say that the media is not even reporting, you know, some of the things that are happening. Because even if you say that, we also have the people now have access to the social media, and you know the social media is ubiquitous. You know, it reaches so many people, you know, at the same time, just like the traditional media is actually able to do. So if you are talking about improvement in security, if there is no improvement, if you go on social media platforms, you will be able to see it. Because like so many people will argue, you know, we all have our own little worlds. I can tell you, for instance, that security in my own part of the country is good. And then the same person, you know, from another part of the country may tell you a different thing. So if you look at it from the media perspective, that's what we should be looking at. You know, the fact that so many people are not happy, but then you also have others that are maybe commending the president, you know, for the little effort. Because if you know where some of these people are coming from, and then what they are, the situation that they are presently in, then you will be able to understand anytime they open their mouth to say, this is what the government is getting right, this is what the government is not getting right, and then you will be able to draw your own conclusion based on what you know.
All right, so while we're at it, so that we get this right, while we're talking about the media, now, we talked about a situation whereby the atmosphere whereby the media, the Nigerian media, is operating when it comes to these issues, when it comes to insecurity, when it comes to reporting insecurity. Lots of media houses have been accused of, saying, glorifying terrorism and making and all sorts of that coming from the government side now. So, when it comes to the issue of reporting, does the media find itself in a situation whereby they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't? Because if they don't report it, then that means people will have this false sense of security that, oh, things are fine. And if they do, they get accused of glorifying terrorism. Is that the situation the Nigerian media finds itself right now?
Well, you know, there are actually two things. The media does not create event. You know, it only reports things that are happening. Sometimes the government, I wouldn't want to say hide, but they sort of, you know, use the issue of national interest to say that what you are reporting, what you are letting the people to know is actually, you know, running against the national interest. But what we need to do is to be able to separate between what a national interest is and then maybe the interest of those in power. You know, those in power, you know, they want to be seen in good light. So anytime you have a story that does not favor them, it's understandable that they may, you know, cry foul, say whatever they want to say. But do they give us the credit anytime the media reports things that are, you know, positive about the government? Because if you know, for instance, the kind of criminalities that happen in Johannesburg, for instance, if the media in South Africa is to devote, you know, its coverage to the things that are happening, things that are not working normal, believe me, there will be no space for any story. The same thing with Nigeria. If we are to say that we'll look just at the issue of insecurity, we may not even have places for the economy, other issues, you know, that are very important. So the media, well, is something that we just have to live with, because, you know, as it's just like what people will, the example that people will give you with water. Sometimes you drown in it, and then when it comes to preparing for burial, you use the same water to wash. So that's like the role of the media. You know, whether you like it or not, this is a responsibility that we have, which is even recognized by the Constitution, and we play it to the best of our ability.
Dr. I was just trying to also put into context the way and manner the president has been consistently passing on this message. And something I find very interesting in his line of messaging is always in referring to this victory, he talks about the Boko Haram element. They have succeeded in wiping. Yeah, but what we have seen is a metamorphosis. What started as Boko Haram has now taken various forms. Criminality, whether we call it banditry or criminality or what do you call it? Rustling, as we have seen in very, very frightening proportion. I mean, it surprises one how you can rustle over 1,000 cows for several kilometers and there are no security intervention. When you can barely move with a bike or a motorcycle from one market to another without several security agencies wanting to extort something from you. Is it that the president is failing to understand that these things have metamorphosized and taken fresh form, even though the criminal elements continue to fester, and that more places have come under their control than just the Northeast as we used to have, because the initial inclination is that this thing is confined to one section of the country. But I mean, just by Suleja here, the Kaduna-Abuja road, there are places you can't go to because of this criminal element. What is it do you think the president is finding difficult to reconcile?
Well, there are three things. One, inability of the president to have the right information in respect to the number of manpower available we have within the 27 security agencies that we have, and also to know the gap. Because as far as I'm concerned, the total number of security agencies we have put together from the 27 security agencies, using the airstrike and land operations, what we have available cannot cover the challenges we have by 27 to more than 27 to 28 at maximum 30%. So 70% is missing in the Army, in the Air Force, in the intelligence, naval intelligence, defense intelligence, and Air Force intelligence, DSS, and the like. That is one. Secondly, the number of the required recruitment that's supposed to have been made have not been made. Even though at a recent time, something happened where large number of security personnel were recruited by the police, constabulary, whatever they call it. But they made a mistake, and that mistake has been recorded, and it will continue to be against them, whereby all the the AIGs made mention that the recruitment is meant purposely to tackle the incoming 2023 election preparedness and election challenges, which means that the government have not given the human life, the human being, the large population that are being killed, kidnapped, and so on and so forth. So when you have a house and you have 27 doors and you are the only person to lock it, and in between one and the other, you have to move 3 hours. How many hours do you have at night? And will you be able to cover all the doors to make sure that they are locked? So we don't have adequate personnel. And we also have the sabotage within and around the government of President Muhammadu Buhari. People keep saying that the long-staying service chiefs have left the service. As far as I'm concerned, those who we are saying that have left the service, they are still in service. It is still their boys that are there. All the security chiefs and all the security heads of Nigeria, they knew, if they're watching me, they knew I have one-on-one interface with them. And all these things I'm saying here, I have said it to them. Either directly or either indirectly. But I have my evidence to testify that they have not been able, if at all we are serious and sincere and honest, we will have recruited the unemployed youth between the age of 17 to 22 to 25. We are using the polling unit, the political ward, and local government for leadership recruitment. So since we have a front challenges, we could have used that strategy to recruit minimum of 80 per polling unit.
Thank you very much.
If in a political ward you have 10 polling units, you will have 800.
Thank you.
If in a local government you have 10 political wards, you will have 8,000. Out of 773 local governments that we have in Nigeria, let's follow this strategy. If at all the government is serious, be rest assured we can be able, security challenges in Nigeria is manageable. And I have a strategy for which, if the Buhari administration is still serious, within 28 days, we can bring down the security challenges from 100 to 60, 65 to 70%.
Thank you very much.
But we don't have a serious government.
Thank you, Dr. Yahuza. I wish we had the time to allow you to expound on some of those intelligent perspectives that you are bringing to bear in this program. But unfortunately, we are pressed for time. And we have to go. I hope that when we call on you next time, you would oblige us the opportunity to come here and digest some of those perspectives that you have. Malam Nasser, it's a pleasure to have kept you in the studio for this long. I hope we will be able to pay for it when the time comes. And viewers at home, thank you very much for allowing us free access into your house and for sparing us time and being part of this conversation. We have so many interesting programs lined up for you for throughout the day. If you have missed out on anything, please recourse to our social media handle to catch up on them, whether it is on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, and all other social media handles that are available to you. Let us do this again tomorrow. I am Sunday Michael Ogun.
All right, it's been a pleasure being here on a Daybreak on Trusted TV. Just like you said, let's do it all again tomorrow. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.